will say San Francisco's a hilly place. I don't know. I think that's a lie invented by the alt-right. It's a perfectly flat place, as you can see. I don't see no hills. Actually, I'm full of it. There are a lot of hills. San Francisco's a very hilly place, and it actually keeps your left leg muscle in very good shape. How about that, Kevin Grace? Kevin Grace, regular Patreon contributor to the Drive Mall Awesome page, thanks for that, asked us a question that we've been asked before, but he added another little twist to it that made it pretty tricky, actually. And that is, what's a fun, sporty family hauler that you can take on, you know, canyon carving runs, and you can also take to Cars and Coffee. And you know, the first thing that came to mind was budget. I'm like, okay, well, what's your budget, bud? Because we can go heavy on this and go E63 AMG immediately and all that. And then as soon as I said that, I'm like, wait a minute, budget doesn't matter, because modern cars are heavy, and heavy cars suck for back roads. Ergo, you want an old car. So, I mean, not that there aren't expensive old cars, but we're not talking $100,000 budgets here, and that's irrelevant. We want to focus on weight. We want to focus on cars that have 4 doors, and or are a wagon, possibly a hatchback of some sort, and have presence. So, what is that? So, you look at E39 M5s immediately as an option, but those are heavy. You know, they can do cool things. You know, you can get the tail out. I mean, say for the Chevy SS, you know, the new Chevy SS, they've got good power. They can be fun on really fast, you know, twisty stuff. But like the tight, technical, twisty stuff that we like to drive on, which is where my mind is, you know, requires something that's a little bit more nimble and a little lighter. So you kind of have to go a little old school on this. And so I've been through something similar here with this. When I was looking for a dadmobile a while back, a fun dadmobile, before Amelia was born, and I ended up with an E34 M5, which was a blast of a car. Super cool car, sounds epic, very capable in high-speed stuff. You know, it's an Autobahn Barger, right? But it has a slower steering box, which is not very good for performance driving. I mean, at least again, the tight technical stuff. But can seat 4 comfortably, big-ass trunk, and has a shit ton of presence, right? It's a good-looking car. They're very handsome, and you know, they're not very common. So definitely has a kind of potential, if you will, at for a Cars and Coffee type of deal. E28 M5, same deal, but you know, maybe a little light. You know, it is lighter, so you can maybe throw it around a little more. But slow-ass steering box, not so good for the tight, twisty stuff. So I went with one that I've actually owned in the past, and you go through all the manufacturers and everything's going to be too heavy or automatic. You know, you go E55 AMG, E63 AMG, automatic heavy, but checks all the other boxes, and ISF, automatic. You know, it's kind of hard. Otherwise you end up with like little econo box type stuff, front wheel drive, and or something with a brutal suspension like a with a Focus RS. Golf R is a good option. I think that's a really good choice. That is one that I will say is a runner-up to mine. But E36 M345, and that's an E36 M3 sedan with a 5-speed manual. And those cars are, not only are they pretty rare, they're very hard to find in good condition, period. You know, whether it's a sedan or not. So those are now, you know, kind of modern classics, and they do get the attention they deserve at Cars and Coffees, at least around these parts, right? More so than a Panamera Turbo S, I'll tell you that much. And they're very handsome cars as well. 4 seats, I mean, you know, seat 4 adults easily, comfortably. Big rear trunk, because they don't have a front, kind of big rear trunk. Rear wheel drive, manual transmission. Good motor, same S52 little inline 3.2 liter as this car, the M Coupe. So that's a great little motor. Sounds good, has good power, and you know, and it checks all the boxes. It's lightweight, enough to where, or light enough to where you're going to have fun on the twisties. We can give you a little example of what these things do. So they sound good, and super silky smooth motors. Love them. But you know, it checks off all the boxes. It's gonna be fun in the back roads. Looks good, rare and interesting enough to where you're gonna get those conversations at the Cars and Coffee. But I think the main thing here that's super important is an interesting color. So techno violet, Takar yellow if you can find one, Estral blue, good colors for a sedan. There's a gorgeous Boston green one right now, BAT, with a black interior, which is insanely rare. And on top of that, it's a slick top, which is my favorite thing in the world. So no sunroof, Boston green, black interior, kind of as good as it gets. Talk about Cars and Coffee presents, especially for the really nerdy folks. So, which, you know, you're gonna get those brownie points. Blast to drive, and you can haul your fam in it and do all the groceries and all that BS. So that is my choice. Don't get a silver one, because then you're just going to disappear at Cars and Coffee and look like any other E36. So there you go. Hope that helped.
All right, so the question for this week is a little difficult for me to answer, and I really do not have an answer right now. I'm like racking my little brain, and it's really hard. So the fun to drive part, so good on a back road, that's pretty easy. I think a lot of cars fill that niche. Also, the utility aspect is pretty easy to fill with a lot of modern cars. So I think my GTI fits nicely into this question as far as being practical for the family, doing errands, stuff like that. And then it's also a good kind of back road car. But the hard part is the Cars and Coffee part. So which car... I don't think my GTI qualifies for going to Cars and Coffees and stuff. It's just a boring new car. And I think that actually takes out almost every modern car that you could... Modern meaning the last like 10 years. That's just a really difficult one, because who wants to see a brand new car at a car show? Like, I kind of don't care what car it is. If it's brand new, it's boring to see, because I can see that car at a dealership lot. And, you know, they're pretty prevalent, all in nice condition. So it's not like seeing name your, you know, an 86 Fox body Mustang that's in perfect condition. Like, those aren't dime a dozen, because most of them are beat up and thrashed, and you just don't see Fox bodies anymore. So that's the hard thing that's the part I'm having a hard time with this question, is basically the car that you want to bring to a Cars and Coffee as well. I think BMW kind of is at the top of my list probably. So I would say maybe, I don't know what the budget is. I'm going to go with like kind of dirtbag DWA budget of 5 to 15K, let's say. And so BMW E36 M3 sedan would be good. Maybe even a coupe, depends how old your kids are, or, you know. I think actually older kids are better for a coupe. Younger kids in a sedan, because you have to actually buckle them in and all that stuff. But E36 M3, you end up being the guy at the car show where I don't know how old you are, but you end up, you know, you're hanging out with all these like kids that are modifying their E36 M3s in questionable ways with their clear corners and angel eye headlights and stuff like that. So the car's kind of not old enough to be in that classic cool crowd. And then what else do we get into? You just get into some really old stuff then, and they're not quite as reliable. So I do think like a Mark II Golf GTI would be really cool. They're pretty utilitarian and everything, and good on a back road. But I don't know if you want that to be your family car and stuff. It's just a really hard one. E30 BMW, just a 325 IS or I or E. That's a pretty good car, and a lot of people like them. So, you know, you go to a Cars and Coffee, and definitely have people asking you about your car. Yeah, it kind of goes back to the BMW stuff, I think. Maybe it's just so hard because nothing. It's like this is the 2 out of 3, right? So you could have, you can have good on a back road and practical, but you can't have the car show part. Then you can have the car show, but you can't have the practical, but you could have good on a back road. So yeah, I guess my choice is probably E36 M3 right now. I think that's at least it's modern enough to drive on a daily basis. It'll do all right. Going to Cars and Coffee, you won't be turned away or like shunned, and it's really good on a back road. But you want to get the Z3 1.9 rack, right, Art? That's what you want to get. So yeah, E36 M3. Probably a pretty boring answer, and I'm curious to see what the other guy said. Later.
What's up, guys? It's Warren. Just answering a question here about best dual-purpose cars for kind of our scene, driving while awesome, Cars and Coffee, half-day rallies, something like that you can also throw the kids into, maybe do a dump run, go to Home Depot, what have you. So I'm going to go with a specific car and one that's in our crew of driving while awesome, and that's our buddy Drew, Vandalay Industries on Instagram. His V90 Volvo wagon with an LS swap manual transmission. I know it's specific, but I think they're out there, and if you can't find one with all that done to it, 240 wagon with a manual would be really cool. Turbo would be even better, and then maybe a 740 turbo 960, but sticky rubber is probably pretty key for those cars, maybe some suspension. And Drew's got great wheels on his, and I've had the chance to drive it. Really, really fun car. And you might have to pop your hood at some events, but I think that's warranted considering what the package is. And just something that you could absolutely do everything you need utility-wise. Seats fold down flat, so camping's an option. And it looks great. It's subtle, and then it comes in roaring into the parking lot at a Cars and Coffee. So that's what I'm going with. A Volvo wagon, rear wheel drive is key. Manual transmission, bonus if it has a turbo, or a full-on LS swap. So there you go. Thanks.